Is Kraven the Hunter a near miss or a direct hit? Well, let's find out.
Here we go again.
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the breach. Dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, Movie Reviews Connections in Mind. Kraven the Hunter is the latest Marvel film from Sony Pictures in their Sony Marvel Spider-Verse universe. It is directed by J.C. Chandor and stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as Sergei Kravenov, the son of a Russian mobster who, after a hunting accident in Africa, finds himself imbued with superhuman abilities. And then when he grows up, he starts crossing names off his list of bad guys, and you better wish that you don't find yourself on his list. Now, this review will contain spoilers of Kraven the Hunter, as well as certain other things, but before I go, I'll do my spoiler-free thoughts on this movie. So, but just so you know, spoilers later on this review. But first things first, let's get into some spoiler talk on Kraven the Hunter. Is this a good movie? Is it a good theatrical experience? Where does this rank in the Sony Spider-Verse Marvel movies pantheon? So, listen, I went into this movie, we've come off some real stinkers when it comes to the Sony Marvelverse. After back-to-back from Morbius to Madam Web earlier this year, I went into this movie with low expectations. And if you go into this movie with low expectations, you might come out with, like me, where it's like, I had low expectations going into this. I did not expect, deep insights into this character. I didn't expect, great allegory for the problems of this world. I just wanted, a superhuman hero slash anti-hero villain-esque to, kill a whole bunch of guys and, some decent, halfway decent action that hopefully isn't chopped to bits. And maybe a couple of quips along the way. And with that very low bar established, I'd say this surpassed that, but not by a whole very much. Like I said, I'm not about to call this a great Marvel movie by any stretch of the imagination. I will say it is probably better than Morbius and better than Madam Web. But that depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for, unintentional hilarity when it comes to your Sony Marvel movies, I don't think you're going to get as much from this as Madam Web or Morbius. But if you're looking for kind of a throwback 2000s era Marvel superhero movie, I'd say this falls very much in that category. And like I said, there were a lot of, mediocre, middle-of-the-road, bland, Marvel superhero movies in the early 2000s as well. But, when the MCU is kind of floundering a little bit, and a lot of those superhero movies are kind of feeling same-ish, it is somewhat refreshing to get a competent, throwback movie from the Sony Spider-Verse, and it's a dumb good time, I feel, and I think it meets that criteria. Now, would I say this is better than, let's say, any of the Venom movies, which are, I would say, the gold standard of the live-action Sony Spider-Verse movies? If I was going to compare this to, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, those movies would blow Kraven's doors off. But is this on par or better than the Venom movies? Well, if I was going to rewatch, to choose between Kraven the Hunter or Venom: The Last Dance, which came out a few weeks prior to this, honestly, I would probably want to rewatch this movie over Venom: The Last Dance. That's just me. Is this better than, let's say, the original Venom? Maybe not, but it is kind of doing the same sort of thing that original Venom is. It is very much a throwback to those 2000s era superhero movies. And, I'm going to stop saying throwback, whatever. What else is there that's good about this? Well, I will say Aaron Taylor Johnson does a pretty decent job as Kraven. I would say, he's not deep or anything, but he knows he doesn't need to be deep per se. He is perfectly serviceable as Kraven. He knows the assignment. He says his lines sometimes kind of monotonely, I will admit, but he does the dialogue is not going to give him anything spectacular to work off of, but I feel like his energy is enough to push it over the edge to being enjoyable just from his presence alone. Russell Crowe as his father, the Russian mobster, I gotta admit, for most of the movie, I kind of felt like he was channeling the Russian version of Dr. Jekyll from the Tom Cruise Mummy reboots. That kind of energy. He was less menacing than just kind of goofy, melodramatic. But again, it's serviceable. I'm going to keep referring to that word serviceable because, like I said, this is, not going to be, a top 10 Marvel movie by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're looking for serviceable action and serviceable dialogue and, the standard superhero movie checkpoints, if you want to, put this on while you're doing other stuff, I think this would be a great movie to have. I would not recommend you see this in theaters. Let's just put it that way. I saw this on, a Friday night, great, perfect opportunity to do that. I think there's maybe, 5 or 6 other people in the theater besides me on a Friday night, and I think that just goes to show this was not going to be a popular showing by any stretch of the imagination. But I will say, now, this is a R-rated Marvel superhero movie. How does it stack with other R-rated Marvel movies? I will say there is definitely some gore. But it is chopped to the point where it's not quite like on the scale of Logan, where I would say is the gold standard of good R-rated Marvel content. Sorry, Deadpool. I think Logan got you beat on on the scale on that front. But I would say this is definitely sub Deadpool. But there are enough scenes where I feel like this does justify its R rating. Just barely enough. It's kind of surprising, if you feel like if a movie's going like this is going to, go all the way to just kind of go to R rating. It feels like with a superhero movie, you kind of have to fight to stay in PG-13. But if you end up going to R, once you're in R territory, you may as well go all the way, and it doesn't do that. I feel there are a couple of moments, one involving a random henchman number 25 or whatever in a log that got me a genuine ooh. But other than that, this is a pretty tame R, I would say. Drop a couple of F-bombs, but really that's about it. This really feels like a PG-13 movie to me. So, on that front, I would say this is kind of a failure on that, on as far as R-ratedness goes. But like I said, this is a serviceable superhero movie, and maybe I was just not in a weird mood to see this. But like I said, I went into this with very low expectations, and it did just barely enough to surpass them. So if you approach this movie with that mindset, I think you'll do okay. So if I was going to give Kraven the Hunter a letter grade, I would say this is a solid C. Middle-of-the-road C, in my opinion. So those are my main points, spoiler-free thoughts on Kraven the Hunter. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. So, I did compare this to Man Web and Morbius. I think it's better than those movies, but it does also commit the cardinal sin from Morbius, and it's not a good kind of throwback, with the start in the present and then, for about 10 minutes-ish, if that, and then cut to, 16 years earlier, or, 20 years earlier kind of thing. And it's like, why do we feel the need to do that? It's just because, we didn't, it feels like you're not trusting your audience to sit through the character development moments. And it's like, oh, we want the action, bring on the action. And, they threw in a bit, they're like, oh, well, we have to throw in some kind of character development. So let's just, throw them a bone to chew off from them. Then we're going to throw them back into the actual character development, which, for me, the character development in this was actually starting to grip me. I mean, I didn't say this before, but I'll say it now. I was not bored throughout this movie. Like, I was actually invested in the relationship, between, Sergei and Dmitri, the brothers. Like, their relationship was actually somewhat engaging. And Dimitri's, manipulation by the Rhino, that was somewhat, I was interested in seeing where that was going to play out. And I was pleased with how, you reveal how it does start to play out by the end of the movie. I think it's lame how they ended it, but I am interested to see, there is a certain amount of throughput through that. But like I said, that's not a great way to structure a movie, and I'm kind of sad that was how Kraven decided to structure it. But most importantly, I mentioned the Rhino before. I feel like the Rhino in this iteration, we've seen a couple of iterations of the Rhino. Most infamously Paul Giamatti's interpretation in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But this, he's got the kind of organic thing going on. It just made me, his character arc just made me think of Killian in Iron Man 3, where you got this kind of dweeby person who is snubbed by the main character or someone related to the main character, and then he comes back as the villain. And it's like, oh, he didn't think that I was any good. Well, I showed him. I'm going to take his stuff. It's like, it's basically the same as Killian in Iron Man 3, and that was not the strong point of Iron Man 3. In Iron Man 3, I like it more than a lot of other people, I think, and I admit that was not the greatest strength of Iron Man 3. That was definitely a weakness of that movie. So, like I said, that was not a great thing to be emulating in this. But overall, like I said, there's enough in this movie, and I came into it with a very low set of expectations. I think there's just enough to say that, if it came on again, I would probably rewatch it. I don't think I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray or anything, but I would say it's worth a rewatch at some point, maybe. Maybe with some alcohol, or something. But, overall, a satisfying enough feature. But what did you think of Kraven the Hunter? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next review, which will be for The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, which came out the same weekend. My review will be up shortly. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially a subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.